let's look for a free enterprise solution. Truman Hunt went out and found a company that we bought, and the story is too long to tell here, but ultimately we find ourselves creating an order form that allows you, when you place orders every month, to buy a case of this and a bottle of that and three jars of cosmetics, and then at the end of that form, whether it's electronic or otherwise, you can elect to buy a bag or several bags of Vitamil, and with a check mark you can donate that Vitamil straight back to our Force for Good Foundation, that then manufactures and delivers that product in places where the needs are profound, in China, in the Philippines, sometimes in Haiti, sometimes where disasters hit, but largely in Malawi, where we have been supporting 100,000 children. So far, you have contributed over 350 million meals. Now, if our objective was to create charitable activities that made a material difference, that weren't just us out jousting at windmills and doing some pro forma things in order to say that we're a corporately responsible company, but actually make a difference by aggregating the love and the goodwill of our million distributors around the world, and then focusing those on critical needs in critical places in the world, then I call that a win. I think we're off to a great start. That 350 million meals ought to be 1 billion meals, and it will be as we continue to do what we do. I was in Malawi just a month ago with some of you, 2 months ago I suppose it's been. Seems like it was yesterday. And we got to see firsthand some of the good that Vitamil product's doing. We went to the Talananu orphanage. This is a remarkable place. A woman in England made an acquaintance down here, and not a wealthy woman, contributed some money so that they could buy this compound with high walls around it and some buildings where girls could live. They built some classrooms. Somebody gave her a little bit more money, and they used every dollar so judiciously. They built an outdoor classroom. This is the dance school, the music school that they built along the way. This little grandma told us the story, a widow, that she and a dozen other widows, I think there were 15 of them altogether, got together and said, we've got all these babies, these young girls who are just walking the streets with no homes and nowhere to go, and that's going to lead nowhere but to disaster. Let's build this school, and with that money they were able to buy the school. We'll bring these girls in, and together we'll take care of these girls and teach them crafts and teach them trades so that they can go out and live respectful lives in the world. She told us that within a few months they were all stunned at how hard it was, just how much work was involved in doing this thing, and so they started to leave, her friends, until there were just a handful of them, and then a few of them, and then just her. She's all that remains between these girls and going back to the streets. And so she was so loving about these girls and about you and about the difference that you're making in these lives. Mother Teresa would be proud to see that wall. This is about love. These little girls, if you were to run into one of these kids on the streets, this is a girls' school, of your local city, you would run into traffic to save them. They're learning skills that will allow them to flourish as mothers in coming days. This is their basketball team that played our basketball team. A bunch of distributors schooled them. These girls wore them out. I thought there were going to be injuries because they're not really used to living. Losing, I mean. There are many more than this. Many of them are off in visiting uncles and grandpas this particular weekend when we were there. This is kind of a sampling of who they are. These beautiful girls that have futures because of you. This grandma, who's the headmaster there, said, you know, we struggle to feed these kids. Our benefactor that bought this place is spending all of the money she can send us keeping the lights turned on around here. But we don't have any money for food. And so the food that we have comes from what we can produce here on the compound. We've got a little garden, and and so they eat what we can grow in the garden. We raise a few chickens, and those chickens are in daily jeopardy because we have too few chickens and too many girls. She says the difference between life and death for these girls that you're seeing, those beautiful dancing girls, is Vitamil. She said, and then with great emotion, she said, if that Vitamil stopped coming here tomorrow, these girls would die. Well, I think they're worth saving, don't you? I think inside their dormitories, there's a fun slogan that they painted on the walls of the dormitory room that was really directed at these little angel girls. But I think that this slogan probably was in fact directed at you. It says, "You are the angels that make the fairies giggle. Thank heaven for you." And for the good that you do. Back at the Matalamanja village, we got to attend a graduation ceremony. And that's always fun to see the end of a couple of years of hard work that these students go through. This is the graduation ceremony. There's Ruth Todd. You don't know this. Ruth Todd's a celebrity around here. She was the lead anchor on Channel 5 News here for many, many years and has worked in other big markets before coming here with her family. She's a wonder. Our keynote speaker at this event is, his name is Richard Solano, who is get the nomenclature right, he's not the president of the parliament, the head of the leader of the parliament in Malawi. And he came and gave this wonderful talk, as we were all giving talks. There were B talks, and then there were the A talks. Richard got up and he said, this is him. He stayed after the party was over, and this is the honor graduate. This young woman and her husband were the best farmers in their cycle, in their group. He produced more produce. They produced more produce than anyone else, and so they got this trundle pump, and he was anxious to be there. He told this remarkable story. He said, usually when guys like me come to places like this to give speeches, I receive a speech to read, because I usually don't know much about the organization I'm coming to be here, so they give me a speech and then I read that speech and go home. He says, when they invited me to come to the Matalamanja village, I told them I didn't need a speech, because I have a story to tell. He said, when I was a little boy, my father was a farmer and my mother farmed with him, and they had some little children. And my father came more and more to the stark realization that if things continued the way they were, he was not going to be able to send his children to school. He couldn't afford to send us to school. And so something needed to change. And so he cast about and he found an agricultural school just like this. Just about like this. And we came there, and we studied, and we worked in the fields, and my mother worked in the fields at that school with me strapped to her back the way we do here in Africa. And we learned the principles necessary for us to have a hope for financial security. And then came home, and my father became a much better farmer because of what had come here. And because of that increased productivity, he was able to afford to send me and my siblings to school. And he says it fascinates me to consider that when my father graduated with my mother, that was a happy day for them. But how happy of a day would it have been if they could have seen it in the future? My mother, carrying this little papoose on her back, could not have imagined that her son, in 2014, would be elected President of the Parliament of our nation. It's been said that when the world has great needs, that Heavenly Father sends children with those answers. And then if we nurture those children properly and give them the right opportunities, those children with their capacities and their intellect and their inspiration from heaven can solve the world's hardest problem. This is our dream for Malawi. That through our activities there, through your goodness, through these meals that are provided, through that school, through the Educate the Children program, we're going to take these children and we're going to empower them to understand the kinds of principles that make your businesses successful. And then they're going to take those principles to their nation and change the very face of a nation. Thank you for all that you do. May God bless you in your endeavors. Thank you.